Yo, what's up? Dr. Swole here, MD, pro physique athlete. Today I'm going to be comparing two 5-day hypertrophy splits, push-pull legs upper-lower and the Arnold upper-lower split. A lot of you have probably heard of the upper-lower split, which is usually programmed for 4 days per week, and push-pull legs, which is typically done 6 days per week. But what split should you use for 5 days per week? Today I'll be covering a couple of options for you. First of all, push-pull legs upper-lower combines the push-pull legs and upper-lower splits into a 5-day setup as shown here, and this is my preferred layout. Pull day, push day, lower day, then upper and lower two. Then we have the Arnold upper-lower split, which is a combination of the Arnold split, which is chest, back, shoulders and arms and legs, and then the upper-lower split. And here's one example of how you could run this: chest, back, lower, shoulders and arms, upper, lower. And this isn't the only order of days that you have to run it in. Today I'll be outlining each of these splits and talking about the pros and cons of each. Then we'll put them head to head to see which one that you should use. Alright guys, let's start with the push-pull legs upper-lower split. As I mentioned earlier, my preferred order of days is pull, push, lower 1, rest, upper, lower 2. So you'll see we have our push-pull leg segment and then our upper lower segment. Couple of things to note. First of all, you saw that I switched the order of the push and pull days, and I did this with a couple of specific reasons. First of all, we want to split up our axial loading in a program. Axial loading comes from compressive forces on your spine from heavy loaded movements like squats, deadlifts, and rows. So this means that you typically want to separate out your heaviest back work from your leg days and separate those days out as much as possible throughout the week. When people order the days as push-pull legs, as you usually hear them say, this is actually slightly suboptimal because you're placing your tougher pull and lower body days back to back. So with this ordering of days, I really like how our major axial loading is spread out here. You'll also see that there's a nice distribution between our upper body work. So our push-pull days hitting the upper body comes early in the week, and then we have a nice separation from our other upper body training. When looking at the ordering of our upper body work here, I also like the fact that we have pull day coming before push day, because as you'll see in my example programs, I actually move bicep work off of pull days onto push days and swap it with some side delt work. This allows you to train your biceps when they're fresh and not fatigued after pulling movements. This is a major disadvantage of the push-pull leg setup, where bicep and tricep training comes after your major compounds with chest and back work. Since the biceps and triceps are used indirectly in your major compound movements, you will be slightly fatigued in those muscles and not perform as well for your direct work later on. So it's really convenient in this modified split setup because you can move biceps off of push day and it comes after pulling movements, so you're not going to have sore biceps coming into a pull day. Another thing to note here is that we have rest days coming after our leg days. And I like this configuration because your leg days are your toughest days. And if you had an important day like chest or back training coming after that, you may not perform as well on those compound movements. This is why I'll always have the upper body day coming before the lower body day when you have upper and lower body days back to back. In terms of cons of this split, as we mentioned earlier, your arms do get fatigued with your pushing and pulling movements. So on your push days, you may not perform as well in your tricep work if you train them with bench press and overhead pressing type movements earlier. Another small issue here is that pull days tend to be short because you have fewer muscles to train. But as I mentioned earlier, you can make modifications moving around small muscle groups, like moving some side delt work onto this day. And it also gives you slight prioritization to your back since you have more time dedicated to it. And also from the fact that pull day comes right after a rest day. So you're going to be rested for that back training. Okay, now we're going to talk about the Arnold upper lower split. As we mentioned, we're combining the Arnold split and upper lower as follows. You got chest and back day, lower body day 1, shoulders and arms, rest, upper body day and lower body day 2, then rest. So we have the Arnold split segment here and the upper lower split segment here. I'm going to talk about two variations here. This is the first one. So the first one has the order of days in the Arnold split segment as chest, back, lower body day, then shoulders and arms. Note that the traditional Arnold split has your days as chest, back, shoulders and arms, and legs. So I have swapped these 2 days here. And the reason I did this is to give a bit of rest in between your chest, back, and shoulder and arm training. One of the criticisms of the Arnold split is that shoulders comes right after chest. So since we have a 5-day split here and we have some flexibility, we can swap the order of these days. I really like the Arnold split and variations of it. In particular, one of the main advantages is that you get this dedicated shoulder and arm day. With traditional splits like push-pull legs, your biceps come after back and your triceps come after chest training. And you may not perform as well on your direct arm work if you're already fatigued from chest and back training. Note that when you are confined to those setups, I still do recommend you have your chest and back training coming first because those are higher priority muscles. You're just going to build more muscle mass overall, and you do want to prioritize compound movements in general. But if you have the ability to train your shoulders and arms when they're fresh, this could be helpful for someone who wants to prioritize their shoulders and arms. I do think that a lot of people are lacking in shoulder and arm development, so I think this is a good idea. Another thing that happens in this split is that you get a bump in your arm training. Since your biceps and triceps are getting used indirectly with your chest and back training, you're actually training them 3 times per week in this split. And the fact that we switched our shoulder, arm, and leg day here in this segment means that you can actually place some more bicep and tricep heavy chest and back movements on this chest and back day. And this will actually synergize with your ability to increase your productive volume for your arms, since you have some nice insulation between training them. So for example, with back training, any type of supinated pull down or chin up is going to use your biceps to a higher degree, and making sure you put in a heavy compound pressing movement for your chest is going to hit your triceps quite well. And this addresses one of the issues that happens in this split where your shoulder and arm training gets bunched up later in the week. I see this as a con because you generally want to spread out your training for the same muscle groups as much as possible throughout the week. If your arms and shoulders were still tired from this day on Thursday, you may not perform as well on your direct work on that upper body day. But when we shift a little bit of stimulus over to chest and back training, this chest and back day gives you a little bit of opportunity to spread out that stimulus though. Also, you'll see in my sample programs that when I program this split, I'll take a bit of shoulder side delt work off of this day and move it onto chest and back day. This allows you to nicely spread out your side delt training. Okay, now let's talk about the second variation of this split, where you have the Arnold split set up in its usual fashion. Chest and back, shoulders and arms, and legs. I also think this setup works really well. First of all, it does a better job of distributing our shoulder and arm training. As you saw earlier, shoulders and arms was getting bunched up with this upper body day later in the week. But here we have a nice separation. A lot of people are worried about this shoulder and arm day coming right after chest and back, but I don't think it's that big of an issue depending on your exercise selection. So for example, if you really want to prioritize a heavy overhead press on this shoulder day, I'd recommend not using your incline pressing on this chest and back day, because incline pressing uses your front delts to a higher degree than your horizontal pressing, like a standard bench or dumbbell bench. You can save your heavy incline press for this upper body day. In either case, this shoulder and arm day is nice for programming in accessory presses like heavy overhead press. It's nice to have it on a separate day from chest training. With the Arnold split, you'll also notice that this is really good for antagonist supersets. It's easy to alternate chest and back exercises in a superset fashion, as well as bicep and tricep exercises on your shoulders and arms day. Alright guys, now let's compare these two splits head to head. So the push-pull legs upper lower split versus Arnold upper lower. As you saw, both of these splits have pros and cons, and overall they're actually fairly similar. Both of them have a 3-day segment followed by a 2-day upper lower segment, and the main change is in that 3-day segment where you have redistribution of your upper body training. In particular, splitting up the upper body into push and pull versus chest, back, and shoulders and arms. When you directly compare the push-pull leg split with the Arnold split, which I have done in a different video, this stacks up a little bit differently. But in this 5-day setup, a push-pull legs upper lower is actually a little bit easier to program. Just because of the way things are distributed, it's a little bit simpler to set up a push-pull legs upper lower because you have nice separation between your upper body training. As you saw with the Arnold upper lower split, we had to watch what was happening with shoulders and arms, where that day was getting bunched up with the upper day later on, or coming back to back with chest and back. So if you've never set up a program before, push-pull legs might be an easier one to start off with. Also, push-pull legs upper lower is overall well balanced. I particularly like how push-pull legs gets combined with the upper lower split here. It ends up fitting really nicely into 5 days per week. Now going on to the Arnold upper lower split. With the Arnold split division of the upper body into chest and back and shoulders and arms, you actually get better treatment of your shoulder and arm training. This is because you're able to dedicate a day to shoulders and arms to train them when you're fresh. Also, as we saw, it ends up increasing the frequency of your shoulder and arm training to 3 times per week. So if you are someone trying to bring up your shoulders and arms, then I would recommend this split. Next, the Arnold upper lower split allows you to prioritize accessory pressing a little bit more than with push-pull legs upper lower. This is because you have that dedicated shoulder and arm day where you can move a bit of your accessory presses. So if you wanted more chances to do pressing movements, for example, if you're really trying to bring up your bench press, then this could be a good split to try. Notice that the Arnold upper lower split does have a little bit more room for customization, as we saw in how I swapped those 2 days around, shoulders and arms and leg day number 1. So you do have a little bit more control over your program. For example, with that first iteration I showed you, where you had chest and back, then legs, then shoulders and arms, since your shoulder and arm day is split up from your chest and back day and the upper day coming later on, you could actually program something like a close grip bench press, which could count for triceps and chest on that day, and it would give you some higher frequency of pressing and serve to help with your bench press. Which of these splits do you think is better? Let me know in the comments below. If you're looking for some good muscle building exercises, I share a free ebook of my top 10 muscle building exercises that you can find on my website, askdrswole.com. Now, there are other 5-day split setups out there that work for hypertrophy, and one that I didn't talk about today was the Dr. Swole Arnold split. This is a combination of the Dr. Swole split with the Arnold split. It's a brand new setup that I came up with some unique advantages. So you can check out this video where I share a full hypertrophy program based on this split to show you how I would set it up. Make sure you subscribe to the channel. I share top-notch hypertrophy programming advice every week, and we'll see you next time.